I think we're right at 7. If anybody else shows up, we'll let them in. Not a big deal. Okay, we've already opened, so we're just going to number 5, which is minutes of previous meeting. Everybody read the minutes? Moved by Councillor Elliott, second by Councillor Caldwell, that the minutes of the July 8th, 2014 council meeting and committee of adjustment be approved and circulated. All in favor? Great. Okay. Additional items? Anybody got additional items? I have a few. Anybody else? Ron? Terry?
Nope.
Benny?
I'm good.
Fisker's got to have a couple.
He's got one. Well, at least he's asked to have one. Or maybe he has more. I don't know. Okay. Moved by Councillor Hamley, second by Deputy Mayor Fisk, the town of Minto convenes in the committee of the whole. All in favor? Great. And we have some public meetings tonight, so we'll get going on those. Oh yeah, right. This is one Mary Lou has declared a conflict on. Thank you, Mary Lou. This public meeting is to consider an amendment of the Town of Minto zoning bylaw number 0186 for property located at parts lots 17 and 18, concession 5, 6180 5th line, Town of Minto. I'll act as the chair of the public meeting. I'll call the meeting to order and request any members of the public present to please sign an attendance record. I will also state the following. If a person or public body does not make oral submissions at a public meeting or make written submissions to the Town of Minto before the bylaw is passed, persons or public body is not entitled to appeal the decision of the Town of Minto, the Ontario Municipal Board, and the persons or public body may not be added as a party to the hearing of the appeal before the board unless, in the opinion of the board, there is reasonable grounds to do so. I'll turn it over to CEO Clerk White to state the municipal address, the legal description of the property, and the purpose and effect of the application, the date notices were sent.
Thank you, Mayor Bridge. Property subject to the proposed amendment is part lots 17 and 18, concession 5, 6180 5th line, Town of Minto. Property is 19.4 acres in size. The purpose and effect of the amendment is to recognize a number of lot deficiencies that exist or will result from severing the subject lands into 2 parcels. The lands are currently zoned agricultural commercial. The lower portion A is being severed and the upper portion B is being retained. Portion A has an insufficient interior side yard. Portion B has insufficient frontage, interior side yard, and setback from a residential dwelling. Other deficiencies, as may be determined, may also be considered. Notices were mailed to the property owners within 400 feet or 120 meters of the property and to applicable agencies posted on the lands July 2nd, 2014. Comments were received from Town of Minto staff. Clerk's assistant noting that the amendment relief applies to implement a technical severance and recommending council consider the zoning bylaw amendment. The Maitland Valley Conservation Authority dated July 10th, 2014 with no comments or concerns. County of Wellington Manager of Planning and Environment Mark Van Patter is here this evening.
I guess I'll call on Mark Van Patter, Senior Planner from the County of Wellington, to make comments on the application.
Thank you, Mayor Bridge, members of council. I'm not going to say very much about this application. It's a fairly simple one, I think. I should introduce Nolan Moss. He's with Cuesta Planning. He's representing the planner representing the applicant, just so for council. Yeah, I think as CEO Clerk White has mentioned, we're basically dealing with a severance, which is going to be heard the day after tomorrow by the Land Division Committee. So if the severance goes through, it creates a number of deficiencies, and they're all fairly minor deficiencies, nothing to be too concerned about. Nothing's really changing except for separating a 19-acre property into 2 parcels, but when we do that, we end up with some setback problems that have to be recognized and insufficient frontage for the parcel that's going to be in behind. It's going to have a flagpole-shaped access way in the future. My understanding is, at least in the short term, they don't plan on putting a new access in. They're going to continue using the current access to the site. So there's a couple of easements that are going to the Land Division Committee as well. I don't see any negative impacts, and no impact on agriculture, no impact on compatibility. So I don't have any concerns with it.
questions?
Mark, the one I don't quite understand is the interior side yard setback. And I understand that's in with respect to the scales,
Yep.
correct? So, when we consider that, does that change the rules in setback if somebody was to put a building on the other side?
No, it doesn't. They'll still have.
They'll
people on-
still have that 19.6 feet?
That's correct.
Okay.
And if the applicants want to put up another building or structure, they'll still have to respect the current zoning bylaw.
Yep.
This only applies to the existing deficiency.
Okay, thank you.
Deputy Mayor Fisk.
Under comment, I guess this is from the town of Minto. There's, applicants were advised that the septic system and private well will be on separate parcels, which should be addressed by private agreement. Do we get involved in that, or is that between the two parties?
If I may, through you, Mayor Bridge, the time we will get involved is if there is ever an expansion on the property that does not have the septic system, and then there would be a building code issue, but that's not an issue that we would be involved with right now at this time. So only if there was expansion, and we were just pointing it out to the applicants so that they were aware.
Thank you.
Good question?
Oh, good.
Thanks, Mark.
Thank you.
I'll call on the applicant or his agent to provide comments regarding proposed amendment. You want to make any comments? No? Okay, thanks, Tom. Call anyone wishing to comment in favor, we already have. Call anyone wishes to comment on the opposition to the proposed amendment with any further comments. Okay, you guys have already had your questions answered? Okay. I will state that if you wish to be notified of a decision of council of town of Minto in respect to the proposed zoning bylaw amendment application, you must make a written request to the clerk of the town of Minto at 5941 Highway 89 Harrison, NOG 1ZO, or email at bwhite@townminto.on.ca. If there's no further comments, I will adjourn the public meeting. Thank you.
Mayor Bridge, just to remind council, the zoning and bylaw amendment is on later in the agenda for
Right.
consideration.
Did you want to move it?
Well, that is in regular council, so we'd have to
No,
move
okay,
that
well, yeah, that's fine.
committee.
Okay, yeah. All right. Good. Thanks, Mary Lou. Excellent. Okay, our next one is the next public meeting is a public meeting to consider amendment of the County of Wellington official plan of the Town of Minto zoning bylaw amendment for the property located at lots 30, 31, 44, 45, 46, 47, and 48 of the Grain Survey, Palmerston, Town of Minto. I'll act as the chair of the public meeting. Call the meeting to order and request any member of the public present to please sign the attendance record. And I'll state the following. If a person or public body does not make oral submissions at a public meeting or make written submissions to the County of Wellington before the bylaw adopting the official plan amendment is passed, the Town of Minto, before the zoning bylaw is passed, the person or public body is not entitled to appeal the decision of the County of Wellington or the Town of Minto to the Ontario Municipal Board, and the persons or public body may not be added as a party to the hearing of the appeal before the board unless, in the opinion of the board, there are reasonable grounds to do so. I'll turn it over to CEO Clerk White to state municipal addresses, legal descriptions of the property, and the purpose and effect of the application, the date notice were sent.
Thank you, Mayor Bridge. The property is located at 385 Mill Street, has flankage on King Street. The purpose and effect of the official plan amendment is to redesignate western portions of the property, lots 31 and 44, from highway commercial to residential. These lots, along with lots 30, 45, and 46, are currently all designated and zoned highway commercial. Lot 46 has a small auto body repair shop. There is some possibility that consideration may be given to redesignating some/all of lots 30, 45, and 46 to residential as well. The purpose and effect of the zoning amendment is to rezone lots 31 and 44 from highway commercial to an appropriate residential zone. There is some possibility that consideration may be given to rezoning some or all of lots 30, 45, and 46 to residential as well. Notices were mailed to property owners within 400 feet or 120 meters of the lands, as well as applicable agencies, and posted on the property June 26. Comments were received from staff and commenting agencies. The Town of Minto Clerk's Assistant planning report is attached. Public Works advisors no sewer or water services to the lot line. There's a stormwater easement traveling underground on King Street. The chief building official noted the low elevation on the property and that a drainage plan would be required prior to issuing a building permit. Fire chief noted that there's a new fire hydrant not required, and that the CAO clerk's department, that a servicing agreement would be needed to extend full municipal services to the lot at the owner's expense to the satisfaction of the town. The Upper Grand District School Board not objecting to the application subject to development charges being paid at the time of building permit. County of Wellington Manager of Planning and Environment, Mark Van Patter, and his report is attached, and he is here tonight.
Mark, would you like to come back up?
Thank you. Before I start, I should just mention that Ryan Bagnell is here from the Robert John's Law Office, representing the clients. Yeah, he may have some comments later on. This application's another one it's a small application, but it's kind of tricky. So you've probably noticed from my comments. I think I'm more favorable with this one than the last one we had that was complicated. I'll try to go through this. Probably the easiest thing to do to start with is to have a look at the air photo we've got of the site. The air photo shows the property boundary, the current property boundary, and you can see lot 31 and 44 are what they're proposing to sever. There's a severance application into the county that the county's land division committee deferred already because they wanted to wait for the OPA and zoning to go through. And I'd also like to point out there's an error on this, under the word retain. I think I had lot 47.
Yes.
It's actually lot 46. And 47 is in between 46 and 48. It's kind of in a dark area there. So just so council knows
Oh,
that
okay.
Oh, so
40
there's 3 lots there.
there's 3 lots there. And I did make special, when I wrote the notice for this application, I wanted to leave it open in case, to make it a little more flexible. So you notice the wordings where I said we may want to expand it beyond what's been applied for. So I just wanted to make sure that was covered off in the notice. In terms of the provincial policy statement and the places to grow, what we're dealing with is employment land, which is a bit of a problem because you have to do a comprehensive review to get through that. So we'll get to that in a minute or two. The most of the property that, when you look at the property, the left side is designated and zoned highway commercial. The right side of their property on King Street there is designated and zoned residential. So the property's got split zoning and official plan designations on it. And I'll just go right over to page 4, the planning considerations for the official plan amendment. The zoning has to follow later, so really all that we're dealing with now is the official plan amendment. Once that gets through, then I'll provide a draft zoning bylaw for council to consider. So the earliest this can be dealt with is by county council in September. So that's sort of what we're looking at. Now, there's 2 main issues with this application. First, as I mentioned, is the loss of employment lands. And I'll go through that to just talk about the comprehensive review. I did go back and looked at the former Palmerston zoning bylaw. This property was zoned, the highway commercial area was zoned general commercial in 1982, and in the 1989 zoning bylaw, it was zoned highway commercial already at that time. So it sat there for at least 32 years with a commercial zoning and designation on it. So nothing's happened to it. But when we get into this comprehensive review, there's sort of 2 issues or questions in my mind. Does the urban area of Palmerston, is this going to hurt, Palmerston by taking away some of its employment lands? The second question is it going to hurt that little node there that's on King Street? Because that commercial node extends all the way over to the old rail line, and it goes down to the lower areas where there's cattails even. So that whole strip there is highway commercial. So in order to do that, I had to go through a comprehensive review, and the county plan sets out the criteria, and I'll just quickly go through it. The ones that, the need for the conversion is the personal need of the applicant. Will it meet the employment forecast allocation? There's excess industrial land in Palmerston, you know, between TG Minto's vacant land and the industrial park. You know, Minto's, or Palmerston's is in good shape that way. Will it adversely affect the overall viability of employment area? Again, it's difficult to say what this will do to that commercial land on King Street, because it doesn't look like it's been that desirable anyway over the period of time that we're dealing with. But if we support what the applicants have applied for, we would have a residential strip there, two lots, one behind each other, that would be residential, and then it would have highway commercial on both sides. And that may be the easiest way to deal with it, just deal with what's been applied for. And I'm on page 5 now of my comments, and I already mentioned that we go all the way down to the rail line. That second paragraph there, the last sentence doesn't make sense. It should read, Wellington Road 123 might be better for highway commercial use than this area in here. Is there existing or planned infrastructure? Minto Public Works can deal with that. The lands are not required over the long term for employment purposes. I've just briefly talked with, Belinda about this, and she doesn't seem to have any concerns about the loss of this employment land in that area. So I think that's important. And I'd also mention that it's sat there for 30 years, as I've mentioned. Probably not a desirable area. And we have created some new highway commercial lands over recent years in Palmerston. There are 3 lots at the front of the industrial area. I understand 2 of those are going to be developed, but there's still one there. And in behind that, we passed a zoning amendment to allow highway commercial in behind that. So there's some potential to, rezone some of that land for highway commercial if we need it. At the east end of the town, we recently created 2 new parcels to Harsh Gill and Dan Sinclair. And I'd also note that even the frontage of Harsh Gill subdivision, it's in the mixed use zone, which does allow some highway commercial and other commercial. And there's quite a bit of mixed use zone in Palmerston, so I don't think we're at a loss that way. So I'm not too concerned about the loss of the development lands. If you go on to page 6, the compatibility with the neighboring land uses. The other main issue is we've got industrial across the street, and we're going to create a residential use across from that. I looked at the air photo, and it looks to me like if the applicants built on lot 44, which is the lot on the front of the fronting on the street, they'd be about 65 meters or 200 feet from the closest point of the truck repair building, which is across the street. And if they build it on the lot in behind, lot 31, the distance would increase to about 90 meters or close to 300 feet. So if council decided that's what they wanted to do, they could put...
The property across the road, 2 Mark, is in Perth, and it's all agricultural, is it not?
That's correct. And that really doesn't weigh in on it.
Is not? Okay.
No. Well, they're really they're kitty corner to the industrial area.
Yeah.
But right across the street. But we could stipulate that the house go into the lot in behind, and they get access in a laneway in the front, and we could take care of that in zoning, but that's just one option.
You mentioned the cattails, Mark. You're looking like a lot of fill to go into that property.
Yeah, that's the other side of the problem. It would need a lot of fill to
If you were
to
down
make
by
it
the railroad
useful.
tracks, you're looking at probably 15 feet of fill to bring it up to the track.
Yeah, you probably have to take out all the organic matter too.
Yeah.
That's in there. So, in terms of alternatives, council could deny this application. You could approve it or support it as applied for the 2 lots. And within that alternative, you could either allow it in the front lot or require it in the back lot. Expanding from that, you could take all of the Dick's property and make it residential if you wanted to do the whole swath there, to the east of Grist Street. That's getting to be a bit larger though. And the other thing you could do is keep the commercial designation on the front lot and only make the back lot residential. But I think, you know, when I look at it all, and I guess thinking about it, I think the way that it's applied for makes as much sense as anyway. So I don't really have, I don't think I have any real big concerns with the application. You would have to go, you know, I guess what we'd be looking for from Minto Council is a resolution and support prior to the September Land Division Committee meeting, which is the second Thursday.
Like Thursday of September. Right. Okay. Questions?
Through your Mayor Bridge, a couple of concerns. I'm not so sure I like the one lot in amongst the commercial status. I can see serious discussion in the future if somebody wanted to develop commercial on either side. But my main question is, if we allowed that per se, what liability does the town have on developing Victoria Street?
Zero.
You think so?
Yeah.
There's no,
We've run into that before, though.
People that own that property, those ones.
That was a road that was open though.
this is not an open road.
Not Victoria.
Well, but Victoria Street extends, you know, from Mill through Lowell.
On paper.
Oh, just on paper, the
Yeah.
whole street.
Yeah.
No, there's nothing on the,
Yeah. No, I realize, I looked at the, but
Unless the developer goes there and buys a property, it's
if
gonna be.
that's an official,
It's the responsibility of the
but is it
developer.
an officially designated street?
It's owned by the, I think it's owned by the town.
Yeah.
But it's unopened.
it's not open. I believe.
Is that, so our liability is not there? Okay, that's all my questions.
Councilor Caldwell.
Just a question, is the applicant thinking of requesting a severance for the balance of the lots? Are you aware of that, or was that just,
All that I don't know, all that they've done, have applied for, you know, the severance of,
31 and 44 only?
that's correct.
Yep.
So that's already been deferred by the Land Division Committee.
Okay, so if they wanted the rest, they would still, I will have to come back and apply for another severance?
That's
or-
correct.
So I mean, we own them all at the same time.
Thanks, Mark.
Okay,
Hang
thank
around.
you.
We might need
Okay, will do.
At this time, then, I would ask if, Terry, did you want to maybe? Ryan, sorry, I wrote it down wrong. Sorry, Ryan. Oh, here we go. Yeah.
Our office learned of this public meeting this morning.
Oh,
and
okay.
We spent a good majority of the day trying to track the clients down who are apparently away on vacation.
All right.
We don't know if they were aware of this meeting
Oh, okay.
or how long they've been away, but we know they're gone now, so we were unable to reach them to see if they had any comments they wanted to put forth. So I don't have any instructions to comment on any of these alternative, but it sounds as Mr. Van Patter didn't have any problems with the application as it was, so
Yeah.
we're okay with leaving it at that, but we just couldn't get any comments into any of these alternatives of making the whole property residential or anything like that. So we just want to make sure somebody was here to represent their interests and let the council know that that's where we were at.
Yeah, but I think we'll just, without having any more knowledge from you and the client, we'll probably just play it like what they've asked for. We won't,
We're agreeable with
too
that.
much more. Okay, thank you,
All
Ryan.
right, thank you.
Terry, we're gonna call you Terry.
All right.
Mayor said.
Sorry, I had it over here, Terry, with Ryan. I had Ryan here.
You gotta stay there.
Mayor Bridge, we would bring back a resolution for you to consider
Yeah.
the August 15th, probably,
Okay.
at the earliest,
That,
subject to whatever you may hear if you're in the rest of the meeting.
right. Because that would still get us in for, you need it for the second week of September. Yeah. Yeah. So, Ryan, if you, CEO White has said, that we'll probably bring this resolution in on the 5th. So if your clients are back and you want to talk, feel free to call the office and talk about, now that you've seen these other options.
Great.
Does that make sense?
I'd like to hear their.
And then if they want to approach it on any other basis, then certainly we can do
Okay,
it.
perfect. Thank you.
Tater, oh boy.
Anyone wishing to comment in opposition to the proposed amendment? Okay. Application's agent was given the opportunity. Members of the council, you have no more questions? Okay. I will state that if you wish to be notified of the decision of the County of Wellington in respect to the proposed official plan amendment application, you must make a written request to the Director of Planning and Development Department, County of Wellington, 74 Woolwich Street, Guelph, Ontario, N1H3T9 519-837-260, extension 2080. And if you wish to receive a notice of decision of the Town of Minto regarding the proposed zoning bylaw amendment, to make a written request to the CEO Clerk, Town of Minto, 5941 Highway 89, Harrison, Ontario, NOG 1ZO, or by email at bwhite@townofminto.ca. No further comments. I will adjourn the public meeting. Thank you.
Later, here we go.
And we have one more public meeting, and the public meeting is to consider amendment of the Town of Minto zoning bylaw number 0186 for the property located at Park Lot 9, Minto Street, in the former village of Clifford, Town of Minto. I'll act as the chair of the public meeting. I'll call the meeting to order and request any members of the public present to sign the attendance record book. Everybody has. Person or public body does not make oral submissions at the public meeting or make a written submission to the Town of Minto before the bylaw is passed. The persons or public body is not entitled to appeal the decision of the Town of Minto to the Ontario Municipal Board, and the person or public body may not be added as a party to the hearing of the appeal before the board unless, in the opinion of the board, there's reasonable grounds to do so. I'll ask CEO Clerk White to state the municipal address and legal description of the property and purpose and effect of the application date and notice are set.
Thank you, Mayor Bridge. Property is located at Part Lot 9, Minto Street, in the former village of Clifford. Subject lands is half a hectare in size, or 1.2 acres. The purpose and effect of the proposed amendment is to rezone portions of the subject property from future development to low-density residential, and to further recognize a reduced exterior side yard setback to the unopened road allowance. This will allow for construction of 6 new single detached dwellings on the subject lands. This is implementing a severance application as well. Notices were mailed to property owners within 400 feet or 120 meters of the subject property and to applicable agencies and posted on the subject lands June 26, 2014. Comments were received from the Town of Minto staff. Clerk's assistance report is attached. It recommends council considers the amending bylaw in regular session. Notes that a servicing agreement would address servicing, drainage, and stormwater management. This is required as a condition of severance. Public Works advised that at least one more lateral is required off Minto Street South, as the original lot layout was for 5 severances, and a final severance application is for 6. Fire hydrants are sufficient on Minto Street at Allen and John. Town stormwater easement will have access from John Street on the access road to be constructed by the applicant. The stormwater management pond is directly behind those lots, and outlets by way of an easement to Allen Street West. The retained lots remain as future development. Saugeen Valley Conservation Authority recommended the subject lands include a holding provision incorporating the requirement to satisfy drainage requirements of the Conservation Authority and the town. The holding provision is to be lifted by the town upon review of the drainage report to the satisfaction of the SVCA and town. County of Wellington Manager of Planning Mark Van Patter, who is here this evening.
Mark?
Thank you. This application, I think, is fairly straightforward. They've been to the Land Division Committee and they've gotten 5 severances, and the 6th house would be built on the strip of land that's the retained land. and they're all to be rezoned into residential R1C from future development. The only snag is the one lot on the corner hasn't got enough side yard next to the street, so we've put in the draft bylaw, we've put in a special zone for that, allowing the side yard setback to be 9.8 feet. So I don't think we have any concerns. The hazard, that's first I've heard about the hazard request from the Conservation Authority. Not sure where that leaves us. Do we,
Mayor Bridge, I guess maybe they, because we have the control of the severance application and clearing our conditions through the county, we can require the servicing agreement as a condition of that. So, in my opinion, I don't believe we need a holding zone in this case, because there already is that control there. And we'll have negotiated the servicing agreement at that time before the lots can actually be created. And the applicant actually has done quite an extensive stormwater management report, which has been reviewed with our engineering people as well. So I believe that's been provided to the Conservation Authority. If it hasn't, we'll certainly get it over to them quickly.
Okay. Sure.
this is Jeff Buseman.
Yes, Jeff.
Hi.
Yep.
Deb
Yep, it's right there. Yep.
property owner.
Yep.
Just to let you know, the swim design has been sent to the Conservation Authority back on April 17th.
Okay.
So they've had it for a long time, so I don't understand what the delays in the So I'm with Mr. White to recommend that we can handle it through the site plan.
Yep. Sounds good.
Okay. I don't know if there's any other questions about the development or.
I was just gonna ask if you wanted to come up, but if there's any questions from, anybody questions, for Mark or for the applicant? I thought it was pretty straightforward, myself. Okay. Okay. So, unless you wanna add anything,
The one comment I just wanted to make was we originally thought about bond action planning, that the county recommended, try to get a little bit more in there.
Mhm.
It's nice with the R1C designation.
Yeah.
15-meter wide lots.
Yep.
And then, because John Street really isn't gonna be built for a very long time,
Right.
ever. That the exterior side yard reduction makes a lot of sense.
yeah, I thought it was well worked out between the two of you on that, so.
Oh, I thought we were putting a
It
sidewalk
helps
down
with
there
our
next week, no?
density issue. Okay. So is anybody here in opposition? Anybody? Okay. You guys all had your questions answered?
All right,
I
get
will
digging.
State if you wish to be notified of the decision of the County of Wellington in respect to the proposed official plan amendment application must be a written request to the Director of Planning and Development Department, County of Wellington, 74 Woolwich Street, Guelph, Ontario, N1H3T9, 519-837, 260, extension 2080. And if you wish to receive a notice of decision of the Town of Minto regarding the proposed zoning bylaw amendment, to make a written request to the CEO clerk, Town of Minto, 5941 Highway 89, Harrison, Ontario, NOG 1ZO, or email at bwhite@townofminto.ca. No further comments. I'll adjourn the public meeting. Thanks for coming. Thank you, Deb.
Painless, my friend, painless.
Okay. Well, I think they had their homework done on that one. Very easy.
Never seen it.
Yeah.
Now we're moving right into delegations, and we've got our CAs coming on up here.
Oh, here we go.
This is gonna be interesting. We put two of them at the same table. It's always fun. Our treasurer and our auditor. David, welcome.
I see we cleared the
The floor is yours.
Here's the room, yeah.
Cleared the room, yep.
Dave, did you make a special trip home from the cottage tonight?
Dave hasn't gone yet.
See you, Mark.
See you, Mark.
Safe trip, brother.
See you, Mark.
Okay, you guys are on.
Doesn't seem like very long ago that I was last year doing this.
Was it last year already?
Time's flying by, my friend, huh?
Hardly aged a bit.
We're all another year older.
Seems
What?
like,
Who is?
seems like forever.
Whether we're a year wiser, that's the other
You
thing.
have a tough day,
I
Dave?
like to think that. Always.
Wanna go to the cottage, Dave?
Do you have to come home from the cottage?
I like it on the weekend.
I would ask the council not to to,
Don't
the
pick
auditor-
on me.
pick on the auditor.
I thought you were gonna say engage in frivolity.
Harass the auditor.
That'd be the word for the night.
Go ahead, Dave.
All right, we usually take a little bit of time, go through the financial statements quickly. I think it's good. Maybe for both of us, kind of walks us
Yep.
through it and, for both parties. Let's start on page 3. First of all, I'd make the comment, we had another, what I would call a successful audit this year. There's always a few issues we come up with that I'll put into an internal control letter out to Gord, things that we might like to see done a little differently, and sometimes you listen to us, sometimes you don't.
Well, I'd like, you better refrain from pickling the council then, right? It happens.
Oh, go ahead, Dave.
Does council see that letter?
Oh, yeah,
All right, okay.
we do.
All right, starting on page 3 at the top, this is comparative with the year before. Taxation's up. User fees are up. The province of Ontario grants are up. I think they're capital in nature, are they, Gord? More?
They're combined OMPF as well as the capital grants.
Government of Canada is down. Municipal is down considerably, and we did discuss that. That was to do with county funding.
Yes, we did the cost share for the Allen Street in 2012 in Clifford, and we didn't have anything similar this year.
Your investment income is down. We cashed in some investments to do some capital work. Penalties and interest, this is one that caught my eye. We did, you have a property that is under tax registration now. We did some allowances on that and basically wrote the write-offs. We didn't write them off as bad debt or anything. We just wrote them off again, interest and penalties. That's the biggest reason.
Yep.
That figure's down. Development charges are based on activity, loss on disposal of assets. I think there were some equipment got rid of at less than net book value.
Yes, there's some land and vehicle trade-ins and that kind of thing that is worked off because you have like a hypothetical useful loss, especially, I think these figures are gonna get more meaningful, but right now we had the 08, 09 changeover, if you like, so they come in at whatever they're at, and they'll gradually get worked through there.
And then other charges down slightly, so total revenues are up about $180,000 over the year before. We look at our functional expenditures, broken down into 7 categories. General government's down a touch. Protection is up. Transportation services are up, as is environmental. Health services up slightly, recreation is up quite a bit, and planning and development up a little. So expenses up about $2 million over last year. So we're coming in at a small deficit this year as opposed to a fairly substantial surplus last year. Now, do you want to interject there about how this affects the budget, and how budgeting is so different?
Yes.
This is the problem.
Yeah, ironically, this has no effect on the budget, too. Yeah, this particular year, we kind of have tried to bring it a little closer with some of the PSAB recommendations and that, too. And what's difficult is when we do our budget, we have an operating budget, and we have a capital budget, and we have reserve transfers, and we do a cash basis budget. What we're presenting here is a combined accrual basis, operating and capital altogether. So although we don't have principal payments on debt and we don't have capital expenditures directly, we do have amortization. And so as amortization, as you start to replace your newer assets, you're increasing your amortization expense too. And things get spread out. They have what they call allocation of program support. So you make an entry in admin, say, well, it affects all the other departments too. So we happen to be relatively close this year on the books with what is in Keystone, that's a pure coincidence. There's really not much of a tie-in there at all. So, as I say, this was a year that we kind of bit the bullet and brought a lot of things into better presentation, especially to do with reserve transfers and interfund, so.
Through you, Mayor Brady, the figure that caught my eye was protection to persons and property.
Yes,
Well,
and
that's
you-
up $300,000.
And that's where, if you recall, especially the April ice storm, a lot of that went into emergency measures or in flood control and that.
Okay.
That's what that is too. We know we have a higher volume of fire calls, but that's not the whole difference. Part
But
of it
the
is
OPP budget would be,
No, no,
No.
it's
That's
county,
county.
No,
total county.
yeah, but we still get an invoice.
No, we
don't. Yeah.
Oh, just strictly through the
Yeah.
county portion of the
yeah, that doesn't get reflected.
67 cents.
Yeah,
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
right.
need to,
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Caldwell.
Yes, I wondered, like, if there's any schedules of any of these expenses, like, could you tell me what is in transportation that went up so drastically?
No.
Those are our costs.
There's a lot more detail, like, as I say, I can always email you the FIR.
Yeah,
Yeah. And that's for some of it.
Let's look at that protection. There's a breakdown of, second column from the left, 1,000,000,
yeah,
4,117.
but not a comparative to the prior year, but, oh,
Just-
yeah,
Just in total there.
That's it, yeah.
right. I just wondered what portion of transportation went up, so, was it amortization was the big
Again,
item?
amortization, and that's all our winter control. That's all our extra plowing and salt and sand and that thing
That's
then-
part of transportation?
yeah, and that's
Okay.
hit, as you know, on a cash basis, and, so far, we haven't been successful getting any
I think your report
assistance yet.
later actually spells it out, that,
Yeah,
like, we were at a deficit of 29,000, but we absorbed $300,000 worth of ice storms and extra winter
Extras,
control,
yeah.
so. Like, that's the problem I have with this, and it's not quite.
it's not that
doesn't-
useful for
it's not-
decision
We don't really
making.
use it as our budget.
Back in the old days, we used to come up with a surplus or a deficit with the opening figure on your
Yeah,
budget.
yeah,
Right.
but it doesn't work that way anymore, and that's the struggle we're having, and I know Gord's gonna work on that, but it doesn't really
No,
flow,
it doesn't.
I find. Anyways,
All right, so that, our accumulated surplus, which, 68 million, has changed very little to 68,502,980. And then if we flip forward to pages 2 and 4, or to page 2, we will see that figure at the bottom of the page. This is a consolidated statement of financial position, and it shows the activity for the year and how everything interacts. And
Net financial assets and your non-financial.
so this is your financial position, basically a balance sheet. Starting at the top, we have cash, Government Canada receivables, no provincial receivables, our taxes receivable up slightly. Accounts receivable, down quite a bit. We talked about that today, Gord.
Yeah, it's several things. The biggest thing is the presentation of interfund loans with the reserve fund, so I think in 2013 it's presented better. We've also had a bit of a migration from people that don't pay their bills. We transfer that to taxes too, and then some of it's just a timing difference as well, offset by payables and things.
And then our investments, down a bit because we have used some of them to fund capital expenditures and our inventory. Our
bars and concessions.
The total financial assets, 10,476,498. Then we have our financial liabilities, accounts payable and accrued charges, for normal operations. Our deferred revenue, which is our,
Obligatory reserve funds, that's our federal gas tax reserves and our development charges and parkland reserves.
post-employment benefits, you've got a couple of employees you're budgeting something for until they reach
65, and that's an estimate based on previous experience.
long-term. Our debentures payable, and they're supported by note 15, 6,680,000. Total financial liabilities are 8,822,451. Our net financial assets, 51,653,647. Our non-financial assets are fixed assets, and they're described in the note, and there is a schedule.
Page 26.
27 shows that figure. Now, there is a little anomaly here. These, on pages 26 and 27, we have there are basically in-use fixed assets. We have fixed assets under construction. I think the amount was $155,119.
That's it.
It doesn't show up on this schedule, but it's certainly in the total. So that's the difference between our figure on the balance sheet, 66,744,529, and the bottom right figure on page 27, 66,589,410.
There's three schedules in the financial information return that deal with tangible capital assets now. So 26 and 27 agrees with schedule, we call it 51A. 51B basically is taking all your assets and dividing them between what they call general and infrastructure. Infrastructure is roads, water, sewer, general is everything else. And then 51C is your work in progress, and that's the 155,000. And right now, we just said that's the north end of Elora Street in Harrison.
Right.
So I mean, if you wanted to take bottom right page 27 and just add 155, 119 to
You
it,
got
and
that.
we'll come up with that 66,744,529. Then we have some prepaid expenses, non-financial assets, and inventory of financial assets. It makes no sense, but total non-financial assets, 66,849,333, added on to net financial assets, 1,653,647, gives us our surplus. The figure we can look at around 3. So that in a nutshell is pretty well the activities of the, stuck in 2 pages here, are the activities of the municipality for the year. And then we have, on page 4, consolidated statement of change in net financial assets. This just walks through what we have done to go from our annual surplus down to our net financial assets, and net financial assets at the beginning of the year. So they decreased by 1,574,066. Bottom, it started last year at 3,227,713.
It's basically your change in fixed assets, put in a schedule, simplified.
Nothing major.
Yeah.
And then page 5, this is a statement of cash flows. Basically shows what your cash was at the beginning of the year and what it is at the end of the year, and how it changed. So we ended up at 3 million at the bottom, right, the bottom figure. End of the year, 3 million, just under 400,000. Beginning of the year, 3,266,000. And these are all the components that went into it. 6 through page 21, 23, 25, 27. 21 pages of notes from the financial statements. A lot of them are in there. They are referenced to the statements we just looked at. It's backup information. Note 1, summary of significant accounting policies. This just basically lays down the ground rules for preparation of the financial statement, what was done. And I know in some cases the board has expanded them beyond the requirement.
And you added one,
To provide just additional information that we feel is useful.
you added the cash one in that section, yeah.
But that's just trying to meet the standard. I'm certainly not gonna read them all to you. I hope that let's get on with the business. Note 5, long-term debt. It shows that there is part of it there, 275, 932, that is out, that represented by tile drain wells.
Yep.
Which is money we borrow on behalf of
Yep.
country landowners, 6,404,136. That's what we really have to pay out of the should be within taxation. Note 7 are investments. Common shares in Ontario, which seems to be quite undervalued from what I've seen. Done quite well. I know I was quite skeptical when we first got the opportunity to get your money out, but it's apparently.
It's working out now.
Note 10 is our debentures payable.
On and on.
But it gives you a schedule, same with note 11, planning board housing, 12, church, 13, summary there.
15 kind of summarizes where we're at. I guess the important thing in 2013 is we took on a full-fledged debenture to acquire the land in Clifford, and that was 500. And we have what they call construction financing to finance the water meter project. So that's at a really great interest rate of 1.59%. So at the end of December, we had 330, and then I expect in 2014 we'll draw on that. It's like a credit line, and if things go well, we'll have that converted to a debenture by the end of 2014 or early 2015 at the latest. That'll be the biggest change.
I'm looking at page 24 and 25 now. Notice the computer under education services for the last 2 letters is transportation.
Environmental. Yeah.
Put it on the next line, same with environmental, I guess this is the case with computers, overriding. But that's the, we looked at that just a few minutes ago, that gives you a summary of what makes up your functional revenues expenditures. And then, 26 and 27, there's continuity and breakdown of fixed assets. And then, page 28 and on, these are your, basically the only trust funds we have now are special care funds
we
for
have.
our cemetery. And page 29 gives some continuity in them, and we continue what we got, and what our balance is for 64,970, and that figure shows up on page 30 under assets for 64,970, and we have our capital
mean, we try.
I was digging out a drawer in my office today and I found some notes that I had signed back in 1980.
Yeah.
The interest rate on some of them, 22 and 3/4.
I had one of those 20%
And then 3 years
mortgages.
later, they're down to 14%.
Yeah, felt like you're lucky, eh?
Yeah.
Except,
You got a mortgage at 10%, you were off to the races.
I know, I had one at 20.
Killer.
Yep.
Yeah, and the cemetery, we had, like the cemeteries branch is one of the provincial ones, and we had an in-depth audit there a couple of years ago. So they audit more than just the financial, but you are regulated, like when you sell a plot, 40% has to go into the trust fund, and you're mandated to use that just for cemetery. So it's a good thing, but
So unfortunately, we have good capital in the cemetery, but interest rates are low enough that we're actually have a deficit in our operating.
yeah, we keep adding to it and making
And keeping it less.
not much, yeah.
That'll turn around someday.
Well, I guess the other just overall thing that, I know we talked about it before, but we've got our asset management plan, and again, it only covers the core, but that core is 87% of our assets. So in here, we roughly put in 4.2 million into assets, which is bigger than the 2.6 million in amortization. It's not the 11 million that's recommended, you know, if you look at replacement costs. Like, I mean, realistically, we're not ever gonna hit 11 million, but I think, you know, we keep continuing what we're doing, managing the debt. We've looked at that. I think the overall debt level is probably not gonna go down anymore. It's kinda at its trough, and as the debentures come due, will probably be replacement, because as we all know, we have a huge capital budget to do in the next few years, so. But,
I guess what
Anyway.
we're looking for, Gordon, what I know this council, we looked at it way back, was try to get in a fairly good situation, because federal government and the province has finally opened up their eyes and said, you know, we've got to get some deficit. Infrastructure deficit is so big, maybe we'll be able to get some third maybe money, and hopefully we'll be able to fund some of that without borrowing.
true, yeah, and as I say, cash flow
Is-
continues to be a challenge,
It
and
sure
I
is.
don't see that changing.
Now, someday they'll give us sustainable funding,
Someday, yeah. Anyway.
someday.
So again, if anyone wants to see the financial information return, which has a lot of detail and in literally very fine print.
Yes,
Yeah.
I totally agree with you there. Yeah, it's more of a good document. But, okay. Well, thank you. Yep. Yep. Great.
And
Appreciate it.
And we're gonna work towards some kind of budget comparability in the 2014 statements. That's gonna be my
Yeah.
fall project, because as we know, the basis is very different, but
Yeah.
we'll print something and see how it looks.
Oh, we'll keep Gord for another year then, won't we?
No, yes.
Thanks, Gordon.
Any
Oh, there you
questions for our two capable CAs up there?
Wow, what a compliment, Kate.
No.
No.
All right,
Three CPAs.
all right, CPAs, sorry,
Yeah.
yeah.
That's the easiest 3 letters I ever got.
Yeah, sorry, I jumped you there. Okay, thank you, gentlemen.
Thanks, gentlemen.
Thanks, Gord.
Good job.
Dave,
So now we're in public question period. Pretty well got rid of everybody, haven't we? Oh. Oh, yes, motion to accept the auditor's report, Councilor Turton, Councilor Elliott, all in favor?
Oh, Ron, right in there, homeboy.
I believe that passed.
Hey, nice watch.
Oh.
Nice watch.
See you, David.
Thanks, Dave.
That's it. Okay, public question period, is anybody there? No? Correspondence received for information requiring direction of council. The agenda, is anybody got any concerns on that? They have a motion to accept. Moved by Councilor Hemley, second by Councilor Faulkner, all in favor? Let's keep them going here. Committee meetings, we don't have any, for approval of economic development, and I asked Tried to get you on by 8 o'clock. It's 8 o'clock. Oh, why, you got your
Well,
neck,
not that
right?
good.
I injured my neck. I
I was
got
gonna say, today you're next.
too much excitement at Enter Store today.
Exactly, exactly. Thanks, Belinda. Come on up.
Guys, okay, I'm just gonna highlight some things. It was a really good economic development meeting, not that they all aren't,
They're
but
all good.
in July,
Whoa,
it was exceptionally a good meeting. We're working on, through our BR&E activities, and the last one, we identified what our priorities are, and they are definitely workforce, which we need to deal with at a county level. So that's one of the things we're working on. The other two that we're really focusing on now are the marketing of our community. We found that businesses were really positive about what we're doing here. We have great relationships between the town, the chamber, the businesses, the DRCs. Everything's really positive. We need to market that more. And we need to attract more residents to live in Minto for the workforce issues, as well as to keep our downtown retail businesses in business. So what we would like to work on, the county has this BR&E fund that we can apply for $25,000 for. The committee decided that we would like to put our money towards creating a marketing plan to attract people back to the community, so focusing on high school alumni, not just Norwell grads, but surrounding communities, and inviting them to come back and see all the great things that we're doing here, and hopefully come back and either start businesses here or move them here or work for our employers. So that's one thing we want to do. The other thing we really want to focus on is putting money towards Launch It. A lot of the businesses were asking for the training, the mentorship, the networking opportunities, which we have available at Launch It. So putting some money into operating that location and then promoting it. So if you're familiar with our creative worker videos that we did, they're 2 minutes long, working with Memory Tree Productions to promote Launch It and use that video. So that is the recommendation from the Economic Development Committee, is to apply for the county BR&E funding for those 3 projects. Next up, I met with Wellington North, Mapleton, and ourselves to go through our plans and find where we had commonalities. And Wellington North and us are very similar in terms of downtown revite projects. So we are going to be hosting a joint economic development meeting that you're all invited to on September 11th. It's going to be at the Mount Forest Sports Complex. And we're going to be having Lisa Morrison there from Renew New Tecumseh. So Lisa was one of the presenters at our Creative Communities Summit that we did in October. And then Erin Rudlin from Rudlin Retail Consulting, because we would like to look at developing a retail recruitment strategy. And so does Wellington North. We're both looking at doing similar programs. So looking at how we can partner together on those and maybe have some cost savings by doing those together. So if you're free, it starts at 6 o'clock on the 11th. And then I just wanted to highlight as well something kind of exciting. My colleagues in Hastings County, Andrew Redden, Kara Van Mile from Bruce County, and Lisa from New Tecumseh, we submitted a proposal to the International Downtown Association to present on a topic called It's Not Just Cities. We find that their conference is very urban-centric, and we want to showcase some of the programs that we're doing in rural Ontario that are innovative but could also be applied in cities. So I'm kind of happy to announce that we're going to be presenting in Ottawa. There's going to be over 600 delegates coming to that conference. So Minto, I'm specifically going to be talking about our Pitch It program and our Tour the Town program. So that's kind of exciting to be on an international stage presenting there. So I think that's kind of the highlights from the minutes, if anyone has any questions.
Any questions?
Thank you.
Good job, Belinda.
Motion to accept. Moved by Councilor Caldwell, second by Deputy Mayor Fisk. All in favor? Carried. Great. Okay. I'll turn now at staff reports. Sorry, and that's CEO Clerk. Proposed parking lot agreement with Harry Stones. Bill, did you want to take that?
Thank you, Mayor Bridge. You have a copy of the report before you and the draft agreement. The draft agreement has been reviewed by the owners of Harry Stones, and they're generally okay with the terms that are in there. If you'd like, I can briefly go through the report just to outline some of the things that are proposed here. When we reconstruct the downtown in Harriston in 2015, blocks of the streets will be closed to traffic. That will create an issue that we'll need to address as we move forward on access to these businesses. The idea being they would be open and available for business use during those periods. One of the things that came forward was partnering with Harry Stones to make available a more developed lot to park publicly on that. And there's a plan in the agreement that's attached that provides for quite a number of spaces to be installed, including a drainage basin that would go in as well. That is actually part of one of the tenders you'll be considering tonight. The idea behind the agreement is to create terms by which the two parties can function moving forward for the next 20 years. The idea is that the 20 or 30 parking spaces that are on there, I can't recall the exact number, would be available to the public, and then there would be 5 spaces reserved for the restaurant. Town would install the drainage and pave the parking as shown, and would maintain the parking lot as well as a public parking area. The lighting would be installed if needed by the municipality. The owner would maintain the lighting on his building as well. He would maintain the parking lot if he required more maintenance than what the town would normally do. He would also be carrying an insurance policy for himself, to protect himself, and to name us as an additionally insured as far as people using the parking area that would be shared for his business. One other element of this plan is to construct, if possible, a shelter for horse-drawn carriages. There's a picture of a potential design that's in Mount Forest at another location. There have been discussions with the representatives of the Mennonite community. Mr. Martin, Edwin Martin, has spoken to myself, and I think to Mayor and Deputy Mayor as well, and maybe others on council, about his offer for the community to build the shelter if the town were to provide the material. And the owners of Harry Stones are willing to supply the land upon which it would go. And that would be under that big willow tree in the back there. And I think it would be a more appropriate facility for many carriages that come into this area. Kind of a standard we might be able to apply elsewhere. So it's interesting, we have a few of these parking lots around Harriston and other parts of Minto where we do allow public parking. We are doing some maintenance on them as well. So I'm not sure, and we haven't been able to find actual agreements that run with those, but we feel like this could be kind of a prototype for what we might need in the future. So our recommendation to you is that we proceed to finalize this agreement and execute it once the tendered price is known. I should note, one of the options that the owners brought forward was a buyout clause. That's on part 12D, which is in the agreement. Basically, if he cancels within 3 years, he would pay the full price of the parking lot back to the town, and then that amount would decrease by a certain percent. And then after 17 years, if he wanted to opt out, there would be no payment. But basically, he's recognizing the investment that the municipality is putting in there. And if he wanted to prohibit the public's use of it, he's prepared to pay the municipality back. So I think that was a good clause for both the parties to have included.
Councillor Falkner.
Through you, Mayor Bridge, item number 4, town to enforce winter overnight parking except the owner may identify vehicles that may need to remain due to alcohol consumption. That's private property. How can the town enforce parking on private property? They can't, in my opinion.
Well, we have an agreement by which we would be operating there, and again, that if we can't enforce it, then that would have to be determined. But I know of other situations where there are public parking lots on private lands. I believe there is enforcement on there, but I could certainly check with our solicitor on that, because we do have an agreement here that the public is allowed to park.
I doubt if it would hold up in court, but I could be proven wrong.
Yeah. File them in then.
But you know what, if somebody's impaired and they leave their vehicle there, I think that's great.
Well, and that's why
Absolutely.
that's there.
No,
but
I'm
that's why
talking
it's
about-
there.
I know exactly what you're saying, but I'm saying, I think that's great that they're gonna leave the vehicle and pick it up in the morning.
Absolutely. Oh. But that's not my point.
No.
Get me, Chris.
Yeah, through you, Mayor Bridge, item number 2, it says that may include a horse shelter. Is that still up in the air, or is that a definite?
Through you, Mayor Bridge, we have not budgeted or found the funds for that shelter or priced it, but if we did, or when we do, we would bring a report back to council identifying a source of funds, and we have the ability under this agreement to proceed then, so. Some of our chief building official is going to work to get us a price on the material. There's gonna be a trip over to one of these shelters with a couple of gentlemen from the Mennonite community. We're going to put the proposal together and bring it back to you.
Yeah, we've arranged to have a trip over with Terry and the builder of Jonas, I think, does the building for that group of Mennonites. Anyways, just to check out the ones over in Mount Forest, but I do believe we'll be able to find the money somewhere to do it. I think it's necessary to do it.
Maintenance, who would do the maintenance, muck the stalls and stuff?
That would be agreement you'd have to work on yet, Ron, with the Mennonite community on that. The plan is to put cement, and we talked about that, to put cement in it, and that's what they have, which is a lot easier to clean than having a gravel situation where the horses.
Mayor Bridge, there is one in behind the evergreen right now, is there not?
No.
For the horses?
Well, the horses tie up, but I mean, there's no shelter.
Yeah, and it's on, it's on gravel, and I'm sure it'd be a lot tidier on cement. Second question is, on the second page of that, town is public parking, that's the Harrison Legion, and that's the Hubbard property?
Probably those are the two that we
Yeah.
haven't got agreements, we haven't found agreements on, written agreements within Verbal, which way I think would be good to get maybe some formalized agreements.
Certainly I'm aware on the Legion property, we definitely plow that, and I have had conversations with the Public Works Director for some maintenance that has to happen on that, so this is gonna come back. But, we need to have the public parking, and most of it's on private lands.
I think Hubbard's the same, we plow that, do we not, Mike? Yeah. For the use of it, so that we basically have it for parking for the dance hall and the dance academy and the theater and that type of thing. Library, yeah. Any other comments? Mover? Counselor Elliott? Counselor Turton, all in favor? Opposed?
I don't know what I am on that.
Oh, okay. Well, yeah.
Just, the only issue I've got, like, I'm in favor, except the only issue is, part of the, couple of those things in there, I think should be researched before they're entered into an agreement.
Are you that concerned about the, whether
Well,
you can
if
pull somebody out of there in the?
Yeah, if we, pull a vehicle out of there and we don't have legal right to do so, it could end up costing the town.
Well, I would think you'd ticket them first and then you'd fight.
When was the last time we had?
We don't have a
ticket
right to
in
ticket on private property.
Oh, we'll look into that.
If I may, we have a traffic bylaw, we would have to amend that and identify this under our traffic bylaw, and at that time I can research the issue of
Yeah, that's
private
my
versus
only-
public
that's my only issue.
property, but right now, it's not prohibited to park there, it's not identified in the schedules, and we'll have to do that too, so.
Yeah, and I think this is very important. If I would talk, Glenda's looking at me like, and I better say what she wants to say. You can come up and say it if you want, but I'll say it, maybe you can correct me if I'm wrong. But this is a key component in our revitalization for the downtown. We don't have a public parking sign, you know, with the green sign and that, and when we do our redevelopment, we'll need this, definitely need it. So I think it's a great win-win, because we couldn't afford to buy it.
I was gonna say,
Yeah, you gotta up here. Seeing you're not going to play ball, so.
So it's like more coming out, not just because of the reconstruction. This has actually been, when we did our business retention expansion in
Yes.
2007, and all of our downtown surveys, it's over and over again that public parking in
Right.
Hairston's a problem. So the reconstruction project just enhances that problem even more. So it's a really, really important thing for the downtown. So yeah, that's all I wanted to say.
Yep.
It was back for a while.
Almost hit it then. Okay, Thanks. Okay. And I'll turn it over to Councillor Caldwell to assume the chair.
And I will call on our treasurer, Jeff, to present. We have two items on the financial agenda tonight. The one is the approval of accounts, and the second one is in regard to the LED street lighting project. And I would remind council that you had an updated report put on your desk tonight. So if you'd refer to that report rather than the one in your package. And I'll turn it over to Treasurer Duff.
Hey, thank you, Chair Caldwell. We've got a few interesting ones in this batch, I think, anyway. Included in admin is the $30,000 loan that we approved at the last council meeting to the Clifford Recreation Association. We've got $44,000 in calcium chloride for dust control, about $7,000 in weed spraying, and also in the public works we've got about $30,000 in engineering, and that's for our various projects, some of which you'll see later on. Now, as you know, the spring is kind of the time when we do the design and get the permits and that, and so we're doing that. And we also did quite a bit of electrical work, about $12,000 in the recreation facilities. And of course, we're spending lots of money on cutting grass these days. So those are the highlights anyway.
Does anyone have any questions on the report? Yes, Councillor Jordan.
Thank you, Councillor Caldwell. Talking about the dust control,
Yes.
I traveled quite a few of the Minto gravel roads, and our dust control's working.
Good.
Yeah.
Good. Yeah, because I think every time we go through it, we look at those tenders, and there's the two different ways, and Mike could explain it a lot better, but maybe the one that we've chosen is the one that works, so that's good to hear. Yeah.
That's a good thing.
Yeah.
Hey, is there any other questions? Then the recommendation is the council of the town of Minto receives the treasurer's report dated July 9th, 2014 regarding approval of accounts, and approves the town of Minto accounts by department for July of 14. May I have someone make that motion, please? Mayor Bridge, seconded by Councillor Faulkner. All in favor? Thank you. And now we'll move on to the LED street lighting project.
Great, thanks. I've got Wayne here who can explain the technical aspect, and this is another example of a project that there's a lot of behind-the-scenes work before it actually comes. So if you recall, back in the fall and the winter of 2013, we had some presentations as to what's the best type of LED street lighting. And at that time, we signed a letter of intent with the LAS consortium, which is Real Term Energy. And since then, they've used, Google Earth software and 2 physical inspections, I guess. I think we've got a pretty accurate count of the type and the number of fixtures that we have now. Yeah, so they've revised that. I guess the revisions have gone 2 ways. The percentage of savings to the town has gone up, but the amount of consumption that they estimated we were using has gone down. So roughly there's very little change there. I guess the highlights of this, it's no money up front. We get new street lights. We don't have a large share of the savings, but we do have some savings, and the savings both come from the reduced consumption and the reduced maintenance, because we basically are replacing, 90% at least of all our lights. So cross your fingers, the maintenance costs will be minimal, and the firm is offering this turnkey solution. So they take over the maintenance and the ordering, and this includes all the electrical refitting and all that has to be done, especially in Palmerston and Clifford and.
All in town, they have existing that don't meet today's ESA standards, but fuses, ground, proper ground, and all that to be brought up to today's standards.
I'll maybe draw your attention to the last page there where Bill and I kind of put some projected figures, because I know one of the concerns of council was, this is great, we'll do this for 10 years, and then it's a little bit of unknown technology. What do we have left in the kitty to maintain these? And basically, we're proposing that we take roughly 50,000 a year, which is the balance. Like, basically, we're going to keep the charges for streetlights, assuming no great variances, constant, and put any savings we have into reserves, and that's for future replacements starting 10 years from now. Hopefully they'll last 20 or 25, but at least we'll start to build up something. So if you want to add anything?
The only thing we could add, that just so that everybody's aware, that we still will have an obligation as a municipality to maintain the infrastructure, just so that, because they will go to the point of attachment where, whether it be underground or whether it be overhead, but still where we have overhead circuits, relays, that thing is not part of their 10-year warranty, just so that everybody's aware of that. So we will still have to maintain, if we do have a relay go down, we'll have to get out, repair that, and get the lights back on. But as far as anything that's installed, the fuse blows, photocell, the fixture itself, then it all comes under that warranty for 10 years, I guess, except for that clause with the lightning strikes. That'll be the gray area that we'll have to work with. But
Questions?
Are there any questions?
Oh, sorry, yours.
Sorry. Yes, Deputy Mayor Fisk.
Through you, Chairman Caldwell, I have a couple questions. We had two presentations. The other group, was their product comparable, or how did they compare? We had the presentations and we never heard again as to what option was best, other than the financing.
I'll let Wayne comment. I think their product was quite comparable. It was quite good. I think it was the impression that we had that the backing of LAS gave us a bit more of a comfort level in dealing with that firm. And just my personal opinion, they're both a bit unproven technology, and you're kind of taking a leap of faith, because hopefully these will last 10 years, maybe 15 or whatever. I just found that the LAS presentation was more understandable. Kind of like I know where it was. I wasn't sure, and as I say, that was a very heavy technical presentation, the other one, and looked good to me, but I don't know a ballast from a bulb, so, you know, there we are.
Turn that in.
yeah. Well, one has a longer. One company had the warranty was longer than that. But when it come down to their plan, we'd have to borrow the money and then.
Yes, they weren't paying.
They weren't.
We were paying up
yeah.
front.
That's right. So there's two different scenarios in which one best suited our municipality at the time in which we wanted to go with. So that's why LAS was chosen or selected anyways as an option.
Okay, and the other thing is, you mentioned a wee bit about there is going to be some maintenance that we're going to be required to do.
Yeah, and that will be.
We're not going to have a bucket truck anymore, so is that going to be an issue, or we'll have to rent one, or?
We'd have to either rent, or we'll look at contracting, getting
That sort of
contractor
stuff.
that would be on call to come in and deal with those situations as they arise. Relays, you hope they last, but when you got 25, 30 relays in a system, they're susceptible to different things too, so, that's kind of where we have to have a little budget to realize that we do have some maintenance issues that would not be under this contract with these people. I just want everybody to be aware of that, so.
So we've got like 8,500 a year, just to be guessing.
Yeah, just.
We're budgeting $8,500 for that part.
That's our suggestion anyway.
And then finally, the 10-year LED fixture warranty from delivery date if failure exceeds 10% of components. Does that mean there's no warranty until we hit 10%, or they're warranting 10% of the components, or what does that mean?
Once it has to fail over 10% before the warranty kicks in, so everything doesn't fail typically at once, it's little pieces of it, so.
We're responsible for the little pieces until
Well, you wouldn't probably even notice, it would,
your degradation in the
Right.
lumens, eh?
So you don't replace it till there's over 10% failure in it. Because of the way the lights work, it wouldn't really even be noticeable. So, yeah, they
so-
consider it to be a fixture that needs repair after 10% of the light components have failed.
Yeah.
You still have 90%
Yeah.
light.
Because it's about 10 drops that you have,
Right.
they take up that percentage.
I think in general, that's the argument in favor of LED over our existing ones, is you put in a new light with traditional technology, and it degrades quickly to a plateau where it's supposed to be a lot flatter plateau in LED.
So occasionally we have lights that never go off?
Yeah, those issues,
Will that be over with?
no, because they're still all under photocells. Eventually, dealing with Western and that, they would like to see even our system in Palmerston as they redo theirs, they will drop our streetlight circuits and we will go to direct connect to their bus. And that way we'll put more photocells in Palmerston too. Like basically 75–80% of Palmerston works off one photocell. And it comes on through relays. And then in our subdivisions, as we do those, they change and everything goes to a photocell. So just, we're in Harrison, everything's on a photocell. Clifford has a couple relays, but Harrison, every light is on a photocell. So everyone is independent of each other as to whether it comes on or off, whether it stays on from its faulty photocell or.
And finally, the construction that's taking place in downtown Hairston next year, will we be responsible for changing the lights, or is that built into this, or how does that work?
If I may, Mayor Bridge, or I guess it's Chair.
Chair, yeah.
I asked them about that. There are currently lamps there that aren't energy efficient, so they will replace them under this program, and they would be subject to these savings. If we go to a new fixture, then we would be buying new lights with LED components in it, and we should buy the same components that these people supply, and they can maintain them as well under this agreement, and the agreement has a fee for that service if we want them to do that. So they'll replace the lamps that are there this summer, and then if we go to new lights and fewer lights, because I think the consultant talked about spacing them differently and having a decorative fixture in there, then we would put the same components that this supplier has in there. And they would maintain them, and there would be a fee for that. But we would outline that to you when the budget comes forward for the reconstruction, how much that is. But initially, they will put the LED fixtures in for the old lamps that are there this summer if you go ahead with this.
Yeah, that would be part of the whole streetscape part, how the county's doing the basic road construction, we'll do the others with trees and sidewalks and all that.
Yeah, Chair Caldwell, wouldn't we be wise to ask them to delay that part of their construction till after the street construction of 15? So then you don't have to do it again a second time?
Certainly an option, because I assume that we'll go decorative over the overhead style that are there now.
Yeah,
The
it's
only
gonna
option
be an
we would
ex-
have would be bringing those ones out and put them back into stock if we do go. But, a 10-year warranty, I guess we're probably better off to hold off
Yeah, just get them to hold on.
on that downtown core area and,
Yeah, okay.
And that's exactly the same question. That's Councilor Creighton.
Through yourself then to ask the question.
Councilor Creighton.
Thank you, Chair Caldwell. Wayne, when you talked about the high maintenance areas, 25 or 30 relays per circuit, is that, do we have a lot of that?
just in Palmerston.
Yeah.
Like I said, that, basic in Palmerston starts at one photocell and then the relay takes it each way. It picks up maybe 8 to 10 fixtures and another relay kicks in. It goes, picks up another bunch and then another relay kicks in. That's why when you can turn, when they come on, they all come on at once. Or if there's an area that doesn't come off, it's a sticky relay. And, those are things why you see a large section on that one of the relays at one point is stuck. And it needs to be fixed or, or we have one little glitch one that does it every once in a while, which.
You have to go kick it.
Yeah, it's
Get
thing,
the
that
pole.
you just touch the pole like that, it goes off, the stupidest thing I ever seen, but.
So-
You could flip a snowball at it, put the lights out, it's just,
When you
but
talk
it's
about,
only occasionally that it does it, but carry on, sir.
when you talk about the photocells, so then, are you saying then there's photocells in each individual light?
There is, and
Yeah.
when these go in, they should all have individual photocells too, so. That way that as you change in the future, you're not having to, all you're doing is changing the hookup, you're not changing that,
Yeah.
If the fixture, like we have some fixtures out there that were never designed to have photocells in it for savings at the time, so that's where they have, you know, like when they're retrofitted, they will have a photocell installed in them and then.
So, when you, thank you for that. So the second thing then is, when you talk about lumen reduction, 10%. So when the lumen production in a light is supposed to be 1,000, and when it comes down to 900, how do we know that? Like, are we walking around to each pole and determining how much light there is at eye level, or how do we determine that?
Well, we would get a complaint, if I may, on that. If we didn't, we are free if we wish to put in our own monitoring equipment at our own expense if we wanted to.
So yeah, okay.
The technology is out there that actually, if you wanna go to smart, yeah, with remote, that you can tell exactly the output of every fixture, if you wanted to go that elaborate. And you would know on a computer, it would all go to one spot, and you would know any fixture, whether efficiencies were down. So, you know, but we're not into that, we haven't got into that market in our, community.
Yes, Councillor Ollie, just before though, CAO White had your hand up earlier. I'm sorry I bypassed you. Did you have anything you wanted to comment on?
Can't recall what it was now.
Okay, then, Councillor Elliott.
I remember. Rural lights, how many of those we have, and are they gonna be, like,
Yeah, we're
How-
gonna
how many-
redo Middle Pines, Highland Pines, and.
there's lights in the roads that we,
Well, some of the roads are owned by the county that we don't deal with,
Okay.
the ones that do intersections.
now there's one at Pike Lake. Do we go into the Pike Lake area? Now, we had years ago, we had to deal with
We
the
originally-
township.
Yeah, we originally installed that, but I don't know what.
Yeah, I think I remember because as I say, we've looked at this Google Earth
Yeah,
and
we
that,
put
and
the
there
light
are,
on.
there's one or two, and they're kinda near the, parking lot entrance and down from there. I think those ones are ours. They originally had some that were like Highway 89
Yeah.
and 23. That's not ours. But I think those two you're talking
And
about, I
there
think
was a
are.
pole right when you make the turn off of the highway there, I think.
Yeah.
We put the light in, but it was on their property.
Yeah, that sounds familiar. But there's that and the two rural subdivisions. There's another rural subdivision that doesn't have
So that would
streetlights, so
probably
that
stay the
would.
same then, I would think. then.
I would think.
It's on their property, correct?
Is there any additional questions? And the recommendation is that the council of the town of Minto receives the treasurer's and water, sewer, and maintenance foreman's, July 14, 2014 report regarding the LAS/real-term LED street light replacement agreement, and considers the bylaw in regular session. May I have someone make that motion, please? Counselor Henley, seconded by Counselor Turton, all in favor? Great. And I pass the chair back to Mayor Bridge.
Thank you, Councillor Colwell. I'll turn it over to Councillor Turton.
Thank you, Mayor Bridge. Tonight, this evening, we have 4 items on our Public Works agenda, and you'll find number 5 and number 6 are sitting in front of you on the desk. So we'll start with them. I'm not sure if we've ever had these two gentlemen sitting at this table together, but welcome, you guys. And our Public Works Director, I believe, is on vacation. So, the first item there is to do with the generator down on Robertson Street at the ambulance building. So, I'm I'm assuming that, Wayne, are you going to talk about this, please?
Yeah, I can. It's
Okay.
just, they had come to us about the amount of power outages and that, and wanted to know what we could do maybe together to come up with a form of generator for the building. Now, one thing I would like to say that somewhere a mistake was made in the amount. I got to do a little homework here before council tonight.
In the amount?
Of $10,000. Where the total was 40,000.
It's 30 now.
When they were doing the math here, and it might have, looks like it might have been on my email, I will take the blame for it, but there was $14,776 for wiring, but that should have only been $4,776. So that will drop that estimate down from $40,000 to $30,000 for the generator. So just I want everybody aware of that. When we're thinking of this, that the amount is no longer $40,000, it's $30,000 to install this generator. And it's where they had said that they wanted to, they were gonna increase their fee by $200 a month to help assist on this. Where it's, I think total it came down to, before we figure those here.
So Wayne, what you're saying then is the immediate cost of the town would be 30,000?
30,000 instead of 40, yes.
But still, we're still going to have an increase of $200 a month?
That's right, it looks like, up to $12,000. For the term of their expiry, of their license there for, 2019.
That's over a 10-year payback.
Any questions? Deputy Mayor Fisk.
Yeah, through you, Chairman Turton, we haven't talked about this request for paving. How does that affect the emergency service? Do we get better service if we pave the yard?
No, I think that's just,
Well,
maybe
I have
Mikey
I
wants
have a
to
problem
add
with
on
that. I'd like to see that
Yeah.
$6,600 if we gotta go towards building our Mennonite shed on the parking lot. I'm not in favor of us spending $6,600 to pave the front yard of that facility. It's just my opinion.
Is that what it's saying? The front
Yeah,
yard?
yeah.
Or is,
Yep, or whatever it is,
Driveway.
$6,600 doesn't go very far.
go ahead,
Yeah.
CEO.
Mr. Chair, our recommendation is that we purchase the generator. We're not recommending the paving.
Okay. Any other questions then? So the recommendation here then is that the council town of Minto receives the Public Works Director's July 15, 2014 report regarding the generator purchase for 122 Robertson Street, Hairston, and include this capital purchase in the 2015 budget. And I have a mover and a seconder for that, Councillor Elliott, Mayor Bridge. All in favor of that motion? Against? That's passed. And thank you for reconsidering that, Wayne. Going back and checking the math, sorry.
Just a question. I don't remember in the past passing items for next year's budget. Do we normally do this and then we present it again at budget time and repass it?
Yeah,
Gord, Treasurer Gord? Do you mind coming up here, Gord, please?
More money bags.
I think all we're recommending is that we put it into the emergency measures draft budget. It's not improving it until then. And also, I think it's mentioned in the report, this has to go to the city of Guelph as well, so we have
They
to.
show that we approved.
Yeah,
our
exactly,
budget.
that
Okay.
they're doing it there, so.
Because I just don't remember seeing this before.
We're not binding ourselves to anything, no.
Okay.
We're just saying that, yes, it's a worthy project and we'll consider it in 2015.
Yeah, and I guess through you,
Go ahead,
Burton,
Robert.
the city of Guelph could say they're not gonna okay it. I mean, their budget as well. I mean, this is the problem in the first place, is that they feel the need of the generator, but in the city of Guelph,
They have
emergency
to
measures, they
endorse the
can't, they wouldn't,
increase.
they didn't want to do a capital, but they would do an increase in rent. So that's the proposal they brought to us, and so we're looking at it from that basis. But, yeah, it could get,
We have to show them in goodwill that.
yeah, we're gonna say that we're willing to at least go that far, and then they'll have to put it in their budget, and whether they get it through their budget will be another thing too.
It would've been nice if, Sean actually came the other night, so he would answer a lot of these questions. We kind of the answer.
Yeah.
From the city of Guelph, so it'd be nice if Sean does come up one of these nights.
I think he's gonna reschedule soon.
And I guess through you, Councilor Turton, one of the things, this was sort of identified when we did our emergency measures thing for the flood, that they would be without power down there. We had no generator to lend them, and I think this adds value to the whole emergency measures portfolio for us, but.
Service.
Go ahead, CIO White.
Mr. Chair, if I may, if the mover and the seconder are okay, I think the councilor raised a good point. We could change that 2015 budget into the emergency measures draft budget, and probably should put the figure of $30,000 in there.
Who moved it in second?
I second it, I'd be fine with that.
Ron Elliott, way to go, Ron.
Okay with
Congratulations.
those few changes?
Sure.
$30,000.
Just fine with it.
Okay. Do we need to read that again? No? Okay, thank you very much. Thank you, Gord. So the second item is the tender contract, 5495, for the reconstruction of various streets. Mike, go ahead, please.
Mayor Bridge and councilors. Yesterday we had two tenders closing. The first one is the reconstruction or various projects throughout the municipality. And the projects which were all included were the reconstruction of George Street in Harrison. That's 2 blocks for the future development there. Queen Street North in Harrison, which is water and sewer construction. Wellington Street in Palmerston, which is asphalt, curb and gutter, and sidewalks. Queen Street in Clifford is pavement and a bit of storm work. Section 5 is the Harry Stone's parking lot in Harrison. Palmerston Arena parking lot, that's about, it's approximately a third of the front parking lot of in between Yonge and the arena itself. And then the section 8 with the miscellaneous, that's just construction layout and bonding. We had two tenders received yesterday, and the lowest bidder was Moorfield Excavating with a tender price of $1,051,395. This tender price is actually almost $144,000 over budget, and we have a few options here which we can adjust the scope of the project to stay within or close to the budget, which are the adding the George Street developing contribution of approximately $64,000, reducing the scope of the work of the Harrison Senior Center parking area of $30,000, only placing one lift of asphalt on Queen Street in Clifford, which takes that one down to $24,000, and reducing the scope of the work at the Palmerston Arena by $10,000.
Mike, I think when you were going through them there, you skipped the
I think I missed
section
them.
7, yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
The Harrison Senior Center parking lot.
yeah.
So, are we talking the entrance and the exit as well there, or what are we actually talking?
It's actually resurfacing the whole horseshoe there.
Okay.
Yeah. And just in the scope of the work there, while Triton was investigating that area, in their proposal was to actually have parking areas as well. But like that's part of that scope which can be eliminated from the project to bring it down.
So that's still only one way, right? We're not putting
Yeah.
Yeah, like it's
Yeah.
just it's almost like a lane and a half
Yep, okay.
driveway, horseshoe driveway.
Questions, Mayor Bridge?
Through you, Councilor Turton, on that one, on that particular one, the Harrison Senior School, Harrison Senior Parking
Yeah.
Center, we just wanted, I think, the whole idea was just to not have additional parking there. There isn't really a need for additional parking. If we do the loop,
Yeah.
it only holds 60 people. And so we really don't have a need. So I think that was, it's fine to be moved out and leave that grass. I mean, it's nicer at grass, I think. for
Yeah.
all the-
And one other thing with that too is, in the center of the horseshoe there,
Yeah.
the grassed area there is low.
Mhm.
And that's part of the problem with the asphalt there. It keeps breaking up. So that was part of it too, is to actually raise that center island up in grass to have the surface water drain a little bit easier, but, yeah.
Other questions? Deputy Mayor Fisk? Through you, Chairman Turton, I guess this would probably be directed to CAO White. We're in the process of accepting a tender for an amount that's going to change. How does that affect the contractor then? Does he have to re-tender, or we just tell him that we're cutting out certain aspects of the job and this is what the final figure will be?
If I may, through you, Mr. Chair, the unit prices are in the contract, and so we would apply those unit prices to lesser areas.
And we said that this was over budget by about 100,000?
140.
140,000?
Yeah, 140.
Does that take into account HST?
I believe so.
There'd be about a little bit more with the HST net in there than the 100,000.
2%, not the whole 13.
Other questions? Councillor Elliott?
If you're gonna, Commerce Marina, what part would you just not part of the parking lot? The one closest to the shed, would do that?
Yeah, it's actually from the, from the curbed area around the arena.
Yeah.
Up about a third of the way, so it'll just get reduced to.
It's not as bad as the rest.
Yeah,
so.
yeah.
Councillor Handley?
Through you, Chair Howard.
Thank you.
Is there any way we can like eliminate one of these projects and put it to the following year or not, or?
Yeah.
Like I'm saying, you're gonna get
yeah.
140 grand, like, and I'm just picking one off the sheet here, I'm not picking on anybody, but let's say Queen Street, Clifford is $134,000. Like, could we, not specifically saying that one, so don't
Yeah.
get mad at me, Clifford.
Yeah.
Can we not, instead of 2015, do it 2016? Or like, to even take another one off there, what's, Wellington Street's 152,000, Palmerston, right? Can we defer that, or, I know what you're saying, taking a little section off of each one, but I would like to see each job completed. Like, I'd rather have 10 jobs completed and eliminate one, as opposed to having 10 jobs half done. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Mike?
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
I don't know what the recommendation is, but that's just kind of my thought.
Yeah. Okay.
Well, when you really look at this, you look at reducing the scope of the senior center parking area. I mean, right now, there's no asphalt in there now, is there?
It's actually millings from previous jobs over the years. Yeah.
So for that particular one, is it, I mean, I think that's feasible that we do a section and maybe leave the driveways. Is that kind of what we're thinking?
Yep.
There? I mean, I think that's feasible. I mean.
Just you're talking about raising the center in between the two lanes and leaving the driveway alone?
No.
Is that what you're talking?
Just doing the driveway.
Just doing the driveway.
I think it was,
Yeah.
it was way over what was really recommended in the first place, in my mind.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not a big hardship, it'll be fine, just doing the driveway, everybody will be happy. That saves you the 30.
Yeah.
64 is money that's contributed back to the developer.
Right.
But now you're up to, what, that's 94.
94. Yeah.
A little bit, and you're saying that the small bit that we're reducing in Palmerston isn't gonna affect it too badly?
Yeah.
So I'd rather than take another project out, I like the way you've worked it myself.
Okay, I'll just give you an option. that's
Yeah,
all.
no, it's an option for,
Yeah.
I'm all for this. Okay, let's get going on the rest of this. We're so far behind.
Yeah, I mean, when we do defer projects,
They tend not to come back for a long time.
is there any other questions on this? Councilor Elliott?
As Deputy Mayor was saying about referring them back, how do we know that that's gonna be $30,000 cheaper in Palmerston, for example, or $10,000 cheaper? How do we know that that's what they're gonna charge for that area?
There's, through your,
Yeah, go ahead.
there is lump sums for each item. So they have unit prices broke out into
Oh,
each
so you
project,
can
so we
actually-
know
okay.
how much each unit costs, yeah. Yeah.
Any other questions? So, I'm searching for the recommendation.
It's on the email.
On the email. As sent out to you on email.
Let me see.
Now can look at your, now you can look at your BlackBerry.
So the recommendation, I would assume then, is to go ahead with your proposition?
Yeah, staff supports Triton's recommendation that Moorfield Excavating be awarded tender number 5495-14.
Okay.
Reconstruction of various streets at the price reflected of the changes outlined above.
Okay. Can I have a motion? or-
Sorry, just for clarification, Chair Curtin,
Go ahead.
minus the amendments,
Yes, yeah,
right? The 60, 30, and 24.
yes, correct, yes.
That probably should be.
60 doesn't include that
No, the adjusted budget.
allocation of funds.
Okay, can I have a mover and a seconder, please? Thank you, Councillor Handley. Councillor Elliott? Everybody understand what we're doing here? Okay? All in favor of the motion? Against? That's carried. Do you want to be noted, Councillor Handley? No? You want to be noted?
Well, if you want to know me, go ahead.
So the third item on our Public Works agenda is for the 16th line culvert replacement. And again, 12C6 is sitting on the table in front of you from, that's the GM Blue Plan Engineering. So, go ahead, Mike.
Okay, this is the second tender which closed yesterday for the 16th line culvert replacement. We received 4 tenders, and they're attached with Blue Plan's recommendation and letter at the back of this email. The lowest tender is Curtis Smith Excavating at a tender price of $497,000. There must be a mistake on a decimal point there. I think it was $497,999
They're off to 8 cents.
Yep.
92
Is that-
cents.
Is it?
Yep.
Okay.
Dropped her by 8 cents. Got her in
I
there.
got the bid. This is post bidding around here, 8 cents.
Okay.
Love that.
The budget for this project was set for $650,000 with up to $585,000 in funding from the MIII program. And this project will not exceed the budget, including engineering, survey, and legal costs necessary for additional work area on private lands around the culvert. Is there any questions?
Any questions on this one? Yes, go ahead.
My only question, I think I know the obvious answer. If we don't spend the whole 585 on this project, we can't allocate it to another. We applied strictly for the 16th line.
Deputy Mayor Fisk.
There's some time constraints on this project as well, are there not?
Correct. Yes.
And they're going to be able to meet these, or I'm
Yes.
sure they were made aware of that in the
Yes.
tendering process. The other thing, I guess, is Just wonder why this wasn't done a little sooner. Like, we could have been at this project now instead of just tendering the project now.
There's some, permit issues, the design issues along the way. There's various things which held this project up along the way here. We were anticipating, a quicker start as well, but it was a scramble here.
Thank you.
So Mike, what are we anticipating in reference to getting started?
3 weeks, I believe.
In 3 weeks?
Yes, and then the completion date, the out of water, or in-water work has to be completed by September 15th, and Curtis Smith is well aware of these time restraints, and he says he's able to get them done, so.
The GM Blue Plan Engineering, is that Anthony Manero?
Yeah.
And what's the deal there? Have they changed their name, or have I missed something?
They've merged with,
merged.
Blue Plan, a second company, yeah.
Because, I mean, it's kind of neat, this piece of paper, it tells us who did the bidding, their address, the whole thing. I mean, that's pretty good, I like that. Everybody, got the questions answered? Can I have a mover and a seconder then? Councillor Caldwell, Mayor Bridge? Yeah, I didn't read the recommendation. But,
It's in bold.
all right, everybody, okay?
All in favor?
Everybody understands the question here.
Right.
All in favor of the question? Against? That's carried. Sorry, let's do that again, okay? All in favor of this motion? Against? That's carried. Thank you. So the fourth item is the, one of the hot topics, in the town of, in Minto, Hairston, right now, and that's all about the RVs coming to town dumping sewage in the Hairston sewage treatment plant. So, some of our staff has looked into some possible options, alternatives, and, Wayne, would you mind, talking about this, please?
Yeah, basically, we've had some complaints that we have increased traffic over the last few years, I guess, because it's become known that we have free dumping for sewage here in Harrison at Harrison Baldine. So we're looking at a couple things. There's no revenue to us. We got to treat it, process it. It does add to our I&I because it's coming from outside our community and being dumped in our facility to be treated. So we did come up, we kind of just threw some three options there that you can read on here. I did come up with one that was actually a unit that would be in place if that was a choice that council wanted to take, that you wanted to have a permanent thing there. But I guess the biggest thing we're looking at is some direction from council as how they would like to go forward with this, and whether we want to come up with some way of gaining some kind of revenue for them dumping, like standard of $10. It seems to be a base charge that other municipalities are using. Some of them, have only areas that if you make arrangements, you can come and dump here. Like they can come 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. It's open. We do not have it locked, so we're just thinking of some way that if you can guide us on how you would like to go ahead with this to create some revenue and also deal with the volume of traffic I see is as we start to charge, it may drop back off again, but people will be looking for elsewhere to find it.
Thanks, Wayne. Yeah, go ahead, Councillor Caldwell.
The majority of the people using this service would be from Kitchener, Guelph. Is that your guess?
My guess is that, I think through word of mouth, that anybody driving down Highway number 9 going to the trailer park to the north finds that this is open, that they are starting to, veer off and go through and utilize that. Now, I think most of the pressure comes on either a Sunday of a normal week or a Monday of a long weekend. So if we can find a way of maybe policing it or something on those days,
I guess my question, if they didn't have this option, they would have to find alternative options. And I guess I have a concern with charging for it or just not having it. I would rather see it not having than having to worry about charging for it or monitoring it by having a staff person have to be on site in order to do dumping. That one really, would not be practical.
Well, a lot
'Cause
of,
even the charge for dumping, how would that physically work as far as our staff is concerned?
well, those are options I think that we'd have to find, whether we'd wanna have one of our members be there on a Sunday for a certain, have it open from the time as an option. We wanna go to Lockbox and as an option, whether, for the honest people, they put their money in or. But a lot of places where they come from have dumping stations there with a charge, and that's why they choose not to dump there, so they can go to where it's free, so.
And the ones with the charge have a staff person.
Yeah, because, they would be, you'd be at one of your campgrounds that would have staff people available at all times, and it would be part of the process.
Go ahead, Mayor Bridge.
I guess I was one of the ones that brought it to everybody's attention because I happened to be down there on a Sunday at one of the ball tournaments, and I think it has been a growing issue. And as we find, and I'm talking to some people in the trailer business, and what happens is these are gypsies. And they're people that are either, if they aren't at the park, they found out that they don't have to pay the $10 to do it there because Harrison's open and they can do it for nothing. Or they're doing rough camping, there's no place to dump. So this has got out there, and they're nomads, and they basically, that's part of the whole fun of doing trailers and RVs. So I think we do have a couple times a year where we have RVs come in and do it, and I think that's quite easy for our staff to maybe have it locked, and then that's part of the rental fee to be at our facility. But, I mean, I was down there for an hour and a half on a Sunday, and our parking lot's full because there was a big ball tournament. They're barely getting through by the cars. They're lined right out. I think I count 20, 22, and I think as soon as we put some kind of motion in place that we're gonna charge them, we won't get them. They'll go somewhere else, or they'll pay where they are. I think that's probably not gonna work. I think we really almost have to look at it from stopping it. And now, the other thing is, since we fixed the washrooms, where they now put the food tent and the beer tent is behind the diamond, which is quite nice because we have the washrooms that we fixed up down there. When they do dump accidentally, miss the hole, and all of a sudden you got the smell comes across and you're trying to eat a burger, and it's just not good. And I think that the public sort of spoke to me on it, and I brought it to you. And I think we had looked at it the year before, but it's got worse, Wayne, I think, because, as you know, I mean, that's word of mouth. And so I think that my rank would be that we lock it up and just have it there when we have actual people in play that we can go and unlock it and let them put dump. But they're already paying a rental to be there.
Councilor Faulkner?
Did I read correctly, a figure of 60?
That was, I don't know whether that'd be over 2 weekends or.
Well, I would bet you, I was
But you
there,
were
I saw over
20?
20 in an hour, and I laughed, and I think the Kinsmen might have even counted them for me, because I think the 60 was their number they got that weekend. So that was a sort of a.
Yeah, I agree with Councillor Caldwell, to have staff called out, we'd end up spending more money on staff overtime than we would treating the stuff. So it's either have the service or not have the service, in my opinion.
Councilor Henley?
I remember discussing this a number of years ago, and was there not a box there? People maybe would need donation when they used it. And I think the concern was we didn't have it for people, and heaven forbid they'd go to the side road and dump their sewage at the side road, but I think that was one of the concerns. We didn't offer it, but I know I'm stuck to handling a lot of plays here on this, and like, it's nice to offer the service as long as it's not costing us anything. But on the other hand, if you give them 60, on a weekend,
Yeah.
and they're selling food in the ball,
Yeah,
going on,
it's not good.
Deputy Mayor Fisk?
Yeah, I don't think our ratepayers should be subsidizing people that have RVs and trailers. I mean, those people have obviously more income than maybe a lot of the citizens in the town of Minto, and I think we should lock it up and let them drive right through town. I mean, we're not gaining anything from it, and it's costing us, and our ratepayers are paying for it, and I don't think they should have to pay for it. I don't think that's our mandate, so I'm against, I say lock it up.
And, but, you know, you have to look at some, issues too. Are these people dumping, are they stopping to eat here? Are they stopping to get fuel here? Are they buying things at the variety store? There's, you know, like I said, I'm stuck between a rock and a hard place. There's lots of different issues to discuss.
Bill, do you wanna go?
Yeah, go ahead.
We did
say,
actually speak to Belinda about that, whether we felt like this particular group would add value that way. And she's not concerned that there's a lot being spent. I think it's, at the time when people are commuting, they're doing this and they're leaving.
Yeah, I talked to Belinda on it too.
Councillor Elliott.
I believe we talked about this last year. We had a concerned neighbor had sent us pictures and such like. Everybody, I don't know, everybody got those pictures or whatever, and obviously it's increased again. We're upsetting our neighbors in the area. If you do have a tournament with kids and such like in the area, and just maybe they don't want to come back to our facility for a tournament or for recreation activities if you're going to have that many people in on a Sunday, especially if we have RVs renting our facility, and then all of a sudden they've got 60 other people to compete with when they leave. So I strongly suggest that we lock it.
Any other questions? So, Wayne, what you're looking for here today is I mean, I don't think that the recommendation that the Council of Town of Minto receive the Public Works Director's report regarding the RV sewage disposal station and seek Council's direction to resolve the high traffic flow in the Harrison Ballpark from the RV sewage disposal. So, I guess what I'd like then, sorry.
There's a third option there.
Yeah, okay. So, so the third option then, if that's what we're looking at, to close and lock the RV dumping in Harrison and not have this service available. Mayor Brick?
That's what I would go with.
Okay, so then what are you thinking here, CAO White? Do we want to just add that to the bottom of this recommendation?
Yes.
Okay, so to the bottom of the recommendation then.
Councillor Jordan.
Yeah, go ahead.
Do we not have a couple weekends where that ballpark is filled with trailers
But they would rent and they would get a key at that point.
Okay, but that should make sure be in the motion, because
Yeah, and I mean,
if we just decided to lock it up, that means locked up. That doesn't mean open it in certain occasions.
so I guess that's a good question. Wayne, what are you thinking when we're talking about locking it up?
Well, I would think as an option, or
It'd be recreation staff that would be working during the time when we have those bookings,
Sure,
and they would
that's
have a
cool.
key and they would open it up.
As long as they can do that.
I guess what I'm saying is there an option there to put a chain around it and lock it up? And so signs, we'll have to post signs to say that,
I think we'll post some signs saying to people that it's gonna be closed effective a certain date, and just in case anyone happens to see that, and, we'll do that, we'll give them a week, but we'll get some signs put up. Probably be some stuff in the media maybe, and, we'll,
But not this week.
we'll take care of it, and we can word the recommendation that it's option 3, with the service only being available to, when the facility is well.
okay?
Or
We
the
have a
grounds.
mover and a seconder then, please. Deputy Mayor Fisk and Mayor Bridge. So all in favor of that recommendation? Against? That's carried. Thank you. Pass the chair back to our Mayor Bridge. Thank you, guys. Appreciate it.
Now we're at other business, disclose additional items. Terry, you wanna go first?
Sure. Last Tuesday night, we had our Trees for Minto barbecue and open house. Tremendous response. Upwards to 120 people participated. Mayor Bridge and Councillor Faulkner did a superb job at preparing the meal. Annalene did a great job of pulling it all together and getting it properly advertised, and the people that were speaking there from the various conservation authorities have never been to a meeting that well attended on a subject like that. So I think it's a great start for that project, and we just need to build from that momentum. And I thank everybody that was involved in the organization and pulling it off, because it was, we were overwhelmed, I would have to say, with how it turned out. So thanks to everybody involved.
Yes, and I'll just add to that, that our host, exactly said was amazing spot, eh? I mean, to have all those people come out, and I know Deputy Mayor Fisk has probably heard, and Ron, but we had people come up and say, yes, they're gonna wanna do the living snow fence, and we're actually getting action from it, which is amazing too. So it's just a great project, and we'll keep working on it, so that's great. Did you have one now?
Yes,
Well, I don't know.
been thinking about this.
Gotta have some rules
Well,
on
only-
that.
Only 1 minute.
Okay.
I've been thinking about this for a long time, and I meant to bring it up at different council meetings, but when you drive down the streets of our communities, we have smaller streets, and I often see cars parked here and here. And it's hard enough to get a car or a van through. If we ever had an emergency vehicle that needed to get down these streets, there's just no way they could ever get there. If we had a fire truck that had to get down. And I'm wondering if we would have the staff at least research and look into something that possibility of parking on one side of the street on most of our streets, or even all of our streets, or some sort of recommendation of how we can get around that, because seriously, if you even, an ambulance couldn't even get past their vehicles if they're parked beside each other. You gotta slow right down and just ease through if you're a vehicle until you run into that. So I'm just asking if we could have their staff research that and maybe bring it back to council at one time, and we can at least discuss it.
Sure.
Okay?
Okay, thanks, Ross. Okay, my items are just a couple quick ones. Everybody notice the flags when you come in today? Everybody see the flags? Does the press see the flag? Oh, you didn't notice the flags? Dang. All right, okay, I understand. Anyways, but it was nice, and unfortunately, our two gentlemen left. I was gonna thank them for getting them up, but those flag poles came from the OPP station, another little gift that we got from them. And it was nice to see flags. We've never had a flag out there that, if we have a situation where we want to show our sympathy and go half-mast, and we'd have to take the whole thing down, tie it somehow, and it was the worst flag pole in the world. It looked terrible. So I'm really happy that we were able to get these flags at very minimal cost, like no cost to the flags, just to us putting them up. And our staff did a great job on that. So have a look when you go out and see the flags. Mayor's Golf Tournament, just a little plug there. It's coming up on the 14th of August, and we're still looking for teams, so and sponsors whenever. So by all means, if you know of anybody, get in on that. And just today, I just have to mention and I know some of the press were there, and how impressed I was with the opening today. We don't have openings like that very often in a small town, and Annette did such a great job of giving us praise, and I think it was nice to see that she gave praise not to necessarily the politicians, but to the staff, and how well the staff did in organizing and getting the project done. I believe we worked it out. The time we actually approved the plans and everything was done within 6 months, which is totally amazing. It just shows we're open for business in Minto, and we had a lot of people, I'll tell you, there was I never saw so many black Lexuses around. I mean, there's a lot of them. We had the Minister of Energy and some people, the Irvings from New Brunswick, fly into our Saugeen Airport, which is kind of neat. They flew a jet into the Saugeen Airport and drove down from there for the event, because they're hoping to sell this product out into New Brunswick. So it's just really going to put Minto.
We should mention the event.
The event, it was the NR store opening. Yeah, and I'll get to that. Yeah, and Temporal Power, they did a great job of organizing it. And so it just goes to show that if you're open for business, you get these kinds of things. And this will be a big benefit to us going forward, because people are gonna be coming here from all over the world and all over Canada to look at this, and to be, and guess what, they're gonna have to come into Minto. I had the CEO of Cameron's mother and his wife come up and say, we drove out of Toronto, we drove up here, we drove into Minto, and what a beautiful place you have up here. And so those are just the things that you get. And they said, wow. I said, well, we're looking for residents and taxpayers, so we're working on it. We had a chance to actually talk to the head of the OPG, and I mentioned our little problem with not getting our solar panels on our buildings, and he said, oh, well, there's another round. So I found that out today. And so it's just great to be able to mix and talk to these people, and we'll talk to him at AMO again and see if I can corner him and see if we can get that back on the rails. So yeah, just great, and I thanks for everybody that came out and the coverage. We've had some good coverage as well. So that's all I have.
Mayor Bridge, did anybody say anything about the grand opening in Clifford on Saturday? Did we talk about that?
No, we should actually, yes. Would you want to talk to that? Do you want me to?
Yeah.
You were there?
Yeah, you talk about all the great comments. I mean, it was pretty amazing, the grand opening of the Palmerston, or when I say Palmerston.
Well, it wasn't at that.
I know it wasn't Palmerston, the Clifford ballpark, but there was a lot of Palmerston people up there because of
It wasn't actually the grand opening, Dave. They corrected me on that. It was the first pitch on it. We're gonna have a grand opening next year.
But I mean, it's open for business, and it's a beautiful ballpark. I mean, it's, a lot of people commented that they couldn't believe that we were building a ballpark down in that hole. On Saturday, I'm telling you, we had more comments. It's beautiful. I mean, it's not in the hole, and we had discussions today about how well it was draining after the rain on Saturday, and yeah, I really hope that it gets used a lot, because it's a beautiful place, and the residents of Clifford and the groups up there that have worked hard and put money towards that ballpark, it's a great thing. So thanks to everyone for that, and our track staff. Wonderful.
I just want to add one little thing. We had, and it was it was actually a squirt qualifier, so through Wayne Martin and Al and that, they thought they should have, and the CRA, they thought should have a little bit of an opening pitch. So they came up with the idea of doing the swing skirts, and what amazing. I got to take them out for lunch, and there were 7 of them there, and Ruth Field Geisel, she had her original uniform, she had one of her uniforms on, it's a little skirt and everything, and I didn't know until Bonnie Whitehead said it, that she threw the first pitch at the old diamond 65 years ago, and they asked her if she wanted to warm up, but she said, well, bring on warm. But she did bounce a couple in, but I think she had a drop ball going better than her rise, but man, to hear some of those stories, Campbell, you would have enjoyed them, because some of them that should be put down in print, I think. Some of the stories they had, and what a great reputation they had as you probably you wrote about them, I think, the swing skirts had not. And but that was just a lot of fun, and yeah, thanks for reminding me, Dave, on that. That's good. Okay. That's it. Moved by Councilor Caldwell, seconded by Councilor Turton. The committee of the whole convenes the regular council. All in favor? Great. Moved by Councilor Faulkner, seconded by Councilor Elliott. The Council of Town of Minto ratifies the motions made in the committee of the whole. All in favor? This is the one that.
Yeah, Mary Lou should leave.
Yeah, you
Oh,
should
I
leave
have
on
to
this
step
one.
down?
Sorry, Mary Lee, yeah, you could step down on this one.
You can leave early tonight,
You have to come back, though.
Oh,
Thank you.
shucks.
Don't leave right, don't go right away. Move by Deputy Mayor Fisk, second by Councilor Hamley, that bylaw number 2014-46 being the bylaw to amend the Town of Minto zoning bylaw 0186, part lots 17 and 18, concession 5, 6180, fifth line, be introduced and read first, second, and third time, and passed in open council, seal with seal of corporation. All in favor? Carried. Okay, you're back. Moved by Councilor Caldwell, second by Councilor Faulkner, that bylaw number 2014-47 being the bylaw to the Town of Minto zoning bylaw 0186 located southwest of Ann Street between Allen and Getty Street at lot 336 and 339 in the former village of Clifford, be introduced and read first, second, third time, and passed over to council, seal, seal, corporation, all in favor?
Mayor Bridge, the next two bylaws for the Dietrich Engineering reports.
Right.
For those of you inclined to peruse the detailed bylaws that you're given, you'll notice that we're only giving first and second reading here to these two bylaws. The reason for that is under the Drainage Act, which is not a act we use a whole lot here. I think probably these are the only two you've done in 4 years. You give the bylaw first and second reading, I'm told, by the engineer, and then third reading is given at a later date after the quarter revision and appeal processes are done. So that's the way this is done, the next two.
Right. Moved by Councilor Elliott, second by Councilor Caldwell, the bylaw number 2014-48 being the bylaw to provisionally adopt the report prepared by Dietrich Engineering Limited dated June 20th, 2014 under Section 4 of the Drainage Act, Municipal Drain 37-2014 and lots 28-29, concession 3, part lots 27-31, concession 4, part lots 29 and 32, concession 5. Town of Minto be introduced and read first and second time. All in favor? Moved by Councilor Turton, second by Councilor Hemley, that bylaw number 2014-49 being the bylaw to provisionally adopt the report prepared by Dietrich Engineering Limited dated June 20th, 2014 under Section 4 of the Drainage Act, Municipal Drain 115-2014, part lots 15-18, concession 1, Town of Minto, parts lots 12 and 14, concession 11, Municipality of North Perth be introduced and read first and second time. All in favor? Moved by Councilor Faulkner, second by Councilor Elliott, the bylaw 2014-50 being the bylaw to adopt amendment number 2, the emergency response plan for the County of Wellington member municipalities be introduced and read first, second, and third time. Passed over to council, seal, seal, corporation. All in favor? Moved by Councilor Turton, second by Councilor Caldwell, that bylaw number 2014-51 being the bylaw to confirm the proceedings of the July 22nd, 2014 committee and council meeting be introduced and read first, second, third time, and passed over to council, seal, seal, corporation.
I have a question.
Yep.
I'm just wondering, this bylaw number 2, it refers to the deputy mayor. What is that? What am I getting myself into?
Oh.
We're in favor.
That one? The only one I can think
2014-51, item 2, that the deputy mayor and the proper officers of the corporation are hereby authorized and directed to do all things necessary to give effect to the said action or obtain approvals where required and except where otherwise provided. The deputy mayor and the CAO clerk are hereby directed to execute all documents necessary in that behalf and to affix the corporate seal of the town to all such documents.
That should read, Mayor. That's our normal proceedings bylaw, so.
Yeah, I was gonna
we
say.
just changed, stroke out deputy and put mayor.
Yeah, I wonder
That actually gives everybody a $15,000 raise. Thanks, Terry.
Okay, you all right here?
I feel much better now.
Well, yeah, 'cause I was thinking, well, you had to do one last week. I had to do one last week because we had the conflict, right? Okay. All right. Did I read this one out already?
Yeah, you did.
Okay. All in favor? Yep.
CEO White just got a $50,000 raise.
Moved by Deputy Mayor Fisk, second by Councilor Turton, that the council of the town of Minto adjourn to meet again at the call of the mayor. All in favor? Okay. Thank you, guys. Good meeting. Lots done today.